All right, so identifying the segments, okay, and using their properties with some algebra involved, and then we're going to use the triangle inequality theorem to determine if triangles exist and what that third possible side length of a triangle would be. Okay, some of you struggle with that on the homework from 3.5, but don't worry, we're going to figure it out today. All right, so first off, name the segment XY. So these are our choices: perpendicular bisector, angle bisector, mid-segment, median, or altitude. So it's one of the 5 choices. So the segment XY, this segment right here. Someone in the chat box, tell me which one it is of the 5 choices. Very good. I like how you guys have it ready to go and press enter as soon as I ask for it. Awesome. Okay, it is a mid-segment, okay? And the reason why it is a mid-segment is because it is 2 midpoints connected. The only reason why I know that this is a midpoint is because it cuts this segment into 2 congruent parts, okay? That is the evidence that I mentioned in my comments on your GoFormatives, all right? This X is a midpoint because it has the evidence that it is a midpoint. This side is congruent to this side, which makes X in the middle. It is a midpoint. Same thing for the Y point. It has to be a midpoint because a mid-segment is 2 midpoints connected. Y is a midpoint because of this evidence. It cuts the segment BC into 2 congruent parts. So when I have a midpoint connecting to another midpoint, that is a mid-segment. Very, very good. Okay, got to be able to identify a mid-segment. All right, and we also need to be able to identify properties of a mid-segment, which is this next part right here. Is XY congruent, half the length, 2/3 the length, or double the length of AC? So here's XY again, our mid-segment. Here is AC, it is parallel to it. So the question is, and this I'm giving you a huge hint here, big hint, so pay attention. Is XY congruent, half, 2/3, or double the length of AC? Okay, if you know it or you want to guess, go ahead and type it in. What do you guys got? Oh, I see a half, I see a double. Good, I like it. I like different answers. That means we can correct some people. Woohoo! All right, anybody else want to throw half? Okay. Okay, so XY is the one that's being identified. So XY is the mid-segment. So XY, both of you, all 4 of you are correct in a sense, okay? There is a relationship between the mid-segment and the side it's parallel to. One of them is half the length of the other. One of them is double the length of the other. The mid-segment is half the length of the AC side, okay? So the reason why we may say double is when we do the algebra, we have to double the mid-segment, okay? But when it's asking you, is XY congruent, half, 2/3, or double the length of AC, we're going to say 1/2 the length, okay? So the mid-segment is always half the length of the side it's parallel to. But when we do the algebra, because it's half the length, we have to double it to make it equal the length, okay? So make sure you understand that mid-segments are half the length of the sides they're parallel to. Now, if the question had asked, is AC congruent, half, 2/3, or double the length of XY, we would say AC is double the length. Okay, so you have to be really close attention, pay real close attention to what the question is asking. Which segment is it comparing to what? So if I fill in the blank, XY is blank to AC, XY is half the length of AC. Okay, if I said AC is blank to XY, I would say AC is double the length of XY. So you have to pay real close attention to what the question is asking. Okay, your first 4 questions on the test have to do with congruent, half, 2/3, and double. Okay, make sure you guys pay attention to that. All right, next segment that we're going to talk about. MP. All right, this one's a little bit trickier, okay? So if you want to guess or you think you know it, type it in. Is it a perpendicular bisector, angle bisector, mid-segment, median, or altitude? All right, I see a vote for altitude. I see a vote for peanut butter. No, I'm just kidding. Perpendicular bisector. Perpendicular bisector. Okay, all right, let's see here. Okay, so Micah says altitude. All right, everyone else is saying perpendicular bisector. Micah is correct in the fact that it does form a right angle. Okay, and altitude is, sorry, too far, back up. Altitude is a segment that forms a right angle with the side of a triangle. That is not wrong. However, there is more information to this segment. it is also a midpoint, okay? If it makes a right angle and it is a bisector, then it is both an altitude and a median, which makes it a perpendicular bisector, okay? Perpendicular meaning it makes a right angle. Bisecting means it cuts a segment in half. So it cuts the AB in half to congruent halves AP and BP. So that makes it a perpendicular bisector. All right, very good. Perpendicular bisector. Okay, so again, median is just the midpoint. Altitude is just the right angle. But if it's both of them, it's a perpendicular bisector. All right, so be ready for all those kinds of different segments. Okay, good thing we're doing this. All right. Properties of a mid-segment or perpendicular bisector. Is the segment AM congruent, half, 2/3, or double the length of BM? So is this segment AM congruent, half, 2/3, or double BM? What do you guys think? Absolutely. It is congruent. It is congruent. Okay. So remember, anything that involves a bisector means we're going to have congruent parts. Okay. So anything involving a bisector means congruent parts. So AM and BM are congruent. Okay. AP and BP are congruent. All right. So good job. Congruent when it comes to perpendicular bisectors. Very good. All right. Moving on. The segment BX. Okay, it's actually a ray, but if you stop it at this point right here, then it's technically a segment. All right, so what do we got here? Is it perpendicular bisector, angle bisector, mid-segment, median, or altitude? Very good, very good, very good. Yes, it is an angle bisector, okay? Perpendicular bisector cuts segments in half. Angle bisectors cut angles in half. And the only reason why I know there's evidence that it's an angle bisector are these two congruent markings. On your 3.5 homework, if you did not put those markings for the angle bisector, I didn't give you credit for it. I don't know that this is an angle bisector unless I have the evidence that these two angles are congruent. If I don't have that evidence, I cannot say with complete certainty that that is an angle bisector. All right, so you have to have the evidence when you talk about angle bisectors. All right, so we have an angle bisector for this one right here. All right, just like perpendicular bisectors, angle bisectors have the same properties when it comes to lengths of sides or any kind of congruencies. So for this part right here, the segment AX, which is this segment right here, and the segment CX, they have a congruent relationship. Okay, and you can tell already because they have the 4s here. They both say 4, so they have a congruent. If they don't have the congruent evidence, we can use the fact that we have an angle bisector that can create congruent segments, AX and CX. Excuse me. Good question, Christian. You will not have to know the points of concurrencies. No, you will not have to know. You will have to know. We'll get to something that involves the point of concurrency, but you won't have to know the names of them. You won't have to know the names of them. All right. So next one. Perfect segue, Christian. Awesome. The segment BL. The segment BL. Here it is. What do you guys think? Very good. Okay, now, biggest difference between a median and a mid-segment. A median has one midpoint. And I know it's a midpoint because of these congruency markings. Okay, this is the evidence that proves that L is a midpoint. So that makes us have a median because we have one midpoint. A mid-segment would be two midpoints. So if I went from L to X, that would be a mid-segment because X and L are both midpoints connected to each other. But if I only have one midpoint, it's a median. All right. So medians actually have a funky relationship. And this is where the question that Christian asked was, we have to know points of concurrency. You don't have to know the names of it, but we do need to know the properties that this point of concurrency provides. Okay. And that's what this next question is right here. What is the relationship from A to D So let's go A to D. D is the centroid point right here. A to D in comparison to A to M. Okay, so they're obviously not congruent. They're obviously not the same length, so they can't be congruent. The other ones are all in play here. Okay, I'm glad you guys are all saying 2/3 because that's correct. When a median is involved, okay, so far we have mid segments have halves and doubles. Perpendicular bisectors and angle bisectors have congruence. Medians have 2/3. Okay, medians have 2/3. A to M is A to D is 2/3 the distance from A to M. So if this A to M was 30, then A to D would be 2/3 of that, which is 20. And then that D to M would be the other third of that, which is 10. Okay, so make sure you understand 2/3 when it comes to median. Okay, 2/3 when it comes to medians. All right. So perpendicular bisector and angle bisectors, congruent. Mid segments, it's either half or double, depending on which one it's asking. And medians is 2/3. Medians is 2/3. All right. Those are your first 4 questions on the test. All right. And here's one here. My nickname, QT. All right. Here we go. Oh, sorry. Nope, it's going to go forward. I don't want it to go forward. Go back. Yeah, it is an altitude, okay? Q to T is an altitude, and the reason why it's an altitude, the evidence says this right angle right here. Altitude is a right angle only. Remember, if it's an altitude and a midpoint, perpendicular bisector, but this is just an altitude because it just has a right angle. All right, so make sure you guys understand the difference between all 5 of these segments, what they look like, what their evidence proves that they are, and what their properties are when it comes to lengths of the certain segments. Nice, Connor. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and jump into some algebra stuff here. All right, so find the value of x. So we need to figure out what kind of segment are we given here, okay? This segment within this triangle, okay, it makes a right angle, which makes it an altitude, but it is also a midpoint because it makes a bisector. So it's both an altitude and a median, which makes it a perpendicular bisector. So this segment given to us is a perpendicular bisector. And we know that perpendicular bisectors mean congruent, okay? They form congruent relationships. So that means that the 3x length and the 5x minus 9 length are congruent. And whenever things are congruent, we set them equal to each other. All right, and I'm just giving you the advice I gave you guys in the 3.2 lesson, I believe. If it is not a mid-segment, just set them equal to each other and solve, okay, when it comes to the algebra. If it is a mid-segment, make sure you double the mid-segment and then set it equal and solve, all right? But from here, it's just an algebra problem. Let's get rid of the smaller x. Don't freak out that there's nothing there on the left. It's a 0, okay? The number that represents nothing is still 0. And let's add 9 to the left. And divide by 2. Oh no, it came up to a decimal. We must be wrong. Don't be scared of decimals. Don't be scared of decimals. So x is 4.5. All right, if it asks you to find the length of them, make sure you plug that 4.5 into the x to find the length. All right, very good. All right, so if it's anything but a mid-segment, just set the values equal to each other and solve for x. All right, however, if it is a mid-segment, like this one right here, then we have to double the mid-segment. So again, set the value, keep forgetting to select the pen, sorry. Set the values equal to each other, but do not forget to double the mid-segment. A lot of people on their homework for 3.2 forgot to double the mid-segment. Make sure you know which one is the mid-segment, and make sure you double the entire value. So I have to distribute the 2 into both the x and the 8. So this is going to give me 2x minus 16 equals 35. Now I can go ahead and solve for x by adding 16 and dividing by 2. Another decimal. Oh no, not a nice clean number. All right. How did I get the 2 again? So because this is a mid segment, every time we have a mid segment, we have to double it. Okay, whatever the value of that mid segment is, we have to double it. Okay. Can we do 35 divided by 2 and then subtract 8? Yeah, technically, yes, you could. So instead of distributing the 2, you could divide the 2, absolutely, and then just add the 8. Yeah, you could have done that, Connor, for sure. As long as you guys get the right answer, I don't care how you get it. All right, but to answer Kaylee's question, make sure you understand if you have a mid segment, you have to double it. You have to times it by 2, the entire thing by 2, and then solve for x. Okay, every single time you have a mid segment. Everything else, set it equal and just solve for x. But mid segments, double them, set it equal, solve. All right, make sure you understand the difference. You're gonna have both. You're gonna have mid segments and you're gonna have non-mid segments with algebra. So make sure you are ready for both of them. All right, let's move on. All right, how to determine which side lengths are shortest to longest when I'm only given the angle measures, okay? Now, if you are a visual learner and you want to draw a triangle here, awesome, go ahead and draw it, okay? I'm actually going to draw a triangle here as well, okay? So this helps out a little bit. And it doesn't matter how you draw your triangle, it's not going to be drawn to scale, so please do not worry about it being drawn to scale, all right? But I need to label the parts of this triangle. I have the triangle ABC, so the labeling should go at the vertices, okay? All the vertices should have the letters. I never put letters in the middle of a segment unless there's another segment being formed from it, okay? So ABC, and I know that A is 44, B is 82, and C is 54. All right, first off, this is an acute triangle because all 3 angles are acute, okay? So make sure you understand acute, obtuse, and right triangles. We kind of talked about that in Unit 2, though. And then we need to order these from shortest side to longest side, okay? So here's how it works. The largest, or shortest side, sorry. So the shortest angle, the smallest angle is what we identify first, okay? Angle A is the smallest angle, 44. So the side opposite of it is the shortest side. So since A is the smallest angle, the other 2 letters, B and C, form the shortest side. So BC goes first. Okay, that's the shortest side. The next shortest side is angle C, or sorry, shortest angle is C because it's 54. So the side opposite or across angle C, the other 2 letters, A and B, are the next shortest side. And then because B is the largest angle, that means the other 2 letters A and C form the longest side. So AC goes last. So this is the order from shortest to longest, okay? So if drawing a picture kind of helps a little bit, doesn't have to be drawn to scale, okay? It's all about the evidence that's shown. So if A is the smallest angle, then the other 2 letters, B and C, form the smallest side, okay? If the B is the largest angle, then the other 2 letters, A and C, form the largest side. All right, that's kind of how you do it without the picture, but with the picture, it definitely helps a lot. All right, so in order from shortest to longest, BC, AB, and AC. Notice I put segment signs because they are segments. So if you're forced to write out your answers, make sure if it's drawing, you put the segment sign over it. If it's typing, you don't worry about it. But if it's drawing, make sure you put the segment sign. All right. Let's move on here. Okay. Go ahead and take a minute or 2 to try this on your own. Please don't type it in the chat box yet, but be prepared to share your answer if I call on you. But don't spoil it yet. Go ahead, take a minute or 2 and try this one out on your own. I'm definitely going to draw a picture for it. Don't forget the labels of each vertice. Again, it doesn't have to be drawn to scale. It may look weird, but as long as you have the evidence, that's all you have to care about. Sounds good, kid. Thanks. All right. So if the smallest angle, remember we're going from shortest to longest. So if the smallest angle is Z, then the other two letters form the shortest side. So XY is the shortest side. Okay. The next smallest angle is X, which is 50 degrees. So the other two letters, Y and Z, form the next shortest side. So YZ goes second. And the largest angle is Y, but 81 degrees. So the other two letters, X and Z, form the longest side. Okay, so from shortest to longest. That should be your answer. All right, you will have a question like that on your test, so be ready for that. Draw a picture if you need to. If you don't, that's fine. Just got to answer it, but do whatever you got to do to make sure that you get the answer correct. All right. Okay, using the triangle inequality theorem to determine if a triangle does exist. So remember, in any triangle, two sides added together must always be greater than the third side. Always must be greater than the third side. Not equal, not less, greater, okay? So what you got to do is you got to check all three scenarios. So let's just call this, I keep forgetting to hit the pen, sorry. So let's call this, just to call it something, let's just call them A, B, and C, okay? If I took A plus C, it needs to be bigger than B, okay? So let's test that. 15 plus 17 is bigger than 2, so that works, okay? A plus C is greater than B, okay? So the two sides together, those add up greater than the third side. Let's try B plus C. B plus C needs to be bigger than A in order for this to be a triangle. So 2 plus 17 is bigger than 15. So that works as well. So 2 for 2. The third side, however, if I went A plus B, that has to be greater than C. Well, 15 plus 2 is equal to 17, not greater. So this does not work. No, this does not form a triangle. Okay, so the answer yes or no if it's a triangle? No, because when you add any two sides of a triangle, it must be longer than the third side. It must be greater than the third side, not equal. So no, this is not a triangle because 15 plus 2 is not greater than 17. All right, you need to be able to identify using the inequality theorem if a triangle is existing or not. Okay, so make sure that you guys are able to do that. All right, let's try another one. All right, so let's add them together here. So 13 plus 9 is greater than 20, so that works. 9 plus 20 is greater than 13, that works as well. And 13 plus 20 is greater than 9, that works as well. So all three examples work. So if you add any two sides together, it will always come out to greater than the third side. So this is a, oh yeah, it is a triangle. All right, so be able to test all three to make sure that you know that it is a triangle. All right. Okay, this is the last thing that will be on the test, the last thing we're going to cover before the test. Writing a compound inequality that describes the possible length of AC, okay? So, three parts to this, okay? whatever it is asking you to find, whatever the name of the length is. In your homework, it was called X, but in this, it's called AB. I keep forgetting to do my pen. Sorry, keep doing that. All right, this one is named AC. So what we are trying to find a possible length of, the name of it goes in the middle. So AC goes in the middle of two less than signs. Okay, whatever the name of it is, that goes in the middle of two less than signs. All right, then I just take my two values, I add them together for one answer. That gives me 28. That goes on the right side. I subtract my two lengths. Always, never get a negative number, okay? Never get a negative number, okay? If you do 10 minus 18, that's fine. Just make sure you change the positive. I get 8. That goes on the left side. So the two lengths I'm given, add them together, put it on the right. Subtract them, put it on the left. This is your answer. This is your compound inequality. That is what you type in or write in a drawing or whatever it asks you to do, okay? So the name of what it's asking you to find a possible length of goes in the middle of two less than signs. Add the two given lengths together, put it on the right. Subtract the two lengths together, put it on the left. All right, and that is your answer. All right, so what I want you guys to do is try this last one. Write a compound inequality. Don't type in the chat box yet, or don't make it visible yet. And find the compound inequality for the length of AC, possible length of AC. Theodore, I didn't ask you to put it in the chat box. Come on, guys, pay attention here. It's okay. It's okay. All right. So remember, the name of what it's asking you to find the length, possible length of, goes in the middle. Okay, if it was XY, you put XY. If it was BC, you put BC. Between two less than signs, add 7 plus 19 to get 26. That goes on the right side. Subtract 19 and 7 to get 12. That goes on the left side. So this is your answer. All right, that is everything that is going to be on the test today. I know there's a lot, but you got to be able to identify segments, know if the segments are congruent, half, double, or 2/3 the length of other segments. Be able to use the algebra to find either the values of X or the length of segments.